see if we could create bubbles. Well, the second part of that research never happened, because already we had bubbles. We had them in the transparent, obvious environment. Well, it was obvious, it may have been transparent and obvious to economists, but it was not to the people who participate. And so all kinds of people then that were skeptical of that did what they should have done, and that is they wanted to see if they could replicate it. Colin Kammerer was at the University of Pennsylvania. He said this is an Arizona phenomenon. And so he tried it with the University of Pennsylvania, Wharton School students, MBAs and undergraduates, and he found out it was a Pennsylvania phenomenon also. And Caltech replicated them, and so that started to. And of course, we ran people from we ran subjects from what people often call the real world, and turns out that they did the same thing. So it was remarkably robust. And that makes me, by the way, today very skeptical about it. Some people have said that the problem in the housing bubble and financial markets is that things weren't transparent enough. No, you're not going to solve that problem by making it more transparent. I don't believe it. When people get caught up in expectations of rising prices, and that becomes self-reinforcing, I mean, making things more transparent doesn't, I can't see the evidence that it makes much difference, because the belief that's there is very strong. But what's interesting about, so there you had these two extreme kind of markets. The kind of market where nothing carries over to the next period. Think haircuts, hamburgers, internet services. It's about 60% of the gross domestic product. 40% are services. Another 20% is non-durable, food, clothing, soft goods. All the things that you don't buy to resell, primarily. Of course there's flea markets, and there's, people are born traders, and the propensity to barter and exchange is alive and well. So there is retrading of some of that stuff, but it's pretty modest. And so there's this class of commodities that are really well behaved. I was surprised, economists generally were surprised, that the experimental replication, induced value, induced supply and demand kind of representations of those markets worked really well. They converged within a few periods. You go to two simultaneous commodity trading, double auction, okay, it takes now 8 or 9 periods. But they converge. They converge to equilibria that no one participant either knows anything about or could even understand it if you explained it. Where you're using people with no training or anything. Doesn't make any difference. They achieve these outcomes quite unintendedly. And by the way, sheds entirely new light on Adam Smith, what Adam Smith was talking about. When he said that it was not from the benevolence of the butcher and the baker and the brewer that we obtain our dinner, but from their own interest. And almost everybody misquotes that and says self-interest. Do a search on the word self-interest. Do it, and you can do that online. The Liberty Fund allows you get the Wealth of Nations free. You get the theory of moral sentiments free. Go there and download it. Search, and you don't even have to download it to search. They have their own, you can Google the self-interest. It doesn't come up. Now, you do occasionally find self-love. He mentions the word self-love. A little bit more in the theory of moral sentiments, and he's contrasting self-love from the own interest. And Adam Smith puts down the idea that we were driven by self-love as much as any socialist today. The difference is he understood it. He really understood the contrast of that. And he realized, Adam Smith understood very well how, although self-love is a part of what each of us, of course, is involved in, we are far more comprehensive than that in our behavior with others. And if we weren't, we wouldn't survive. Because we depend, the way Hyde would put it, we depend vitally upon the knowledge of others. And not only through markets, but which I think Hyde emphasizes, but also through our daily social exchange. And exchange, our sociality, which is, sociality is by its nature an exchange system. But going back to these contrasting two kinds of markets, there's these markets where everything is over at the end of each trading period, and everybody gets the sellers realize the cost, buyers realize the value. And then at the other extreme, you have these assets like cash, and in the experiments we call them, we would just call them assets, and they have a dividend yield at the end of each period. But the cash endowments and the asset endowments lasted for the entire life of the experiment. Okay. And what Steve Bierstadt and I realized was that no one had done any experiments in between where the asset is produced, yields utility value, and has a finite life, shorter than the length of the experiment. Like, and what kind of an asset would that be? Well, it could be a house or an automobile or something like that, okay? Something that's producible. And if you think about that, if there's a price bubble, and prices, say, are driven by, fueled by credit availability, you have producers out there pumping more units into the market. And the prices are going up, so they're out there building them as fast as they can with, hammers and nails or whatever they use. Well, then if it turns down, the economy's stuck with a lump of that stuff. You can't get rid of it. You either grow out of it or depreciate out of it. And it doesn't go away. In Cleveland, you got all these boarded up neighborhoods, and you can't sell them because who wants to be the one or two houses in a neighborhood filled up with boarded ones? And so, but most other cities, they're just